Now, here are your hosts, Phil Simms and Christopher Mad Dog Russo.
Let's get the calls in. This is your chance. We do it every week for Phil. Let him get a chance to chew on what you want to talk about, and you can ask the questions that I would ask. And we start with Eric, and he's in Long Island. You know he's a huge Eagle fan. Phil, Eric, welcome. Go talk to Phil. What's on your mind today?
Phil, I'm just going to throw 2 to 3 quick things at you. Please comment on them all. Number one, I was at the game last week against the Giants. One concern I have with Peterson, I don't know if you noticed it, but a lot of 1st and 10s last week. He constantly threw the ball with Nick Foles, a lot of incomplete passes. Should I be concerned in the postseason with Foles as a backup to Carson, throwing the ball constantly on 1st down? I thought he should get Jay Ajayi a little bit more involved with the running game, especially early on downs. Number 2, Phil, as far as the defense goes, 3rd consecutive road game. Maybe there's a little bit of tiredness, but should I be concerned about this secondary, specifically Ronald Darby coming back from the ankle injury? Because to me last week he was dreadful in that football game. And number 3, Phil, before I go, come postseason time, if my defense has got a lead, what's the one team that I would have to be concerned about potentially going down the field to beat me late in the 4th quarter? In my mind, it's the Saints. I want to know what you think. I'll hang up and listen. Have a good holiday, guys.
3 great ones. Okay, Phil, let's first talk about too much passing on 1st and 10 with Foles. Is that true or not true?
Well, it doesn't matter to me what was the main objective of what he wanted to do in that game. You want to win. I want to indoctrinate my backup quarterback into the offense is the best way I can. And what's the best way? Throw the football on 1st down, so I have no qualms at all. Just to say to Eric, I thought Nick Foles was borderline fantastic in the game. He threw the ball with power, accuracy. I think all but 2 passes that I looked at that you'd say, oh, okay, maybe I wouldn't have thrown it there. He moved. You know, we forget. He's a big dude, 6'6". He can move around, and he can make all the throws. So that's one. The defense, at least Darby made a few plays. He knocked a few passes down that were big. I thought Jalen Mills, the other corner, really struggled. The whole defense overall, if they don't pressure the quarterback quickly, I didn't even recognize the Giant offense. There were guys open everywhere, almost every play. And Philadelphia very lucky to win the game, I thought, just because their defense for the 3rd week in a row has really gotten beat up.
All right, who scares them then in a 4th down in a 4th quarter go down the field scenario? Who would scare you the most if you're the Eagles?
Oh, well, the Saints, right off, he picked a good one. The Saints, the Los Angeles Rams are going to be, they're so diversified on offense. That's another team, the Saints. Who am I missing in the AFC side?
Well, you got Atlanta, you got Carolina, you got teams like that.
Yeah, they don't scare me as much in 4-down situations as the Saints and the Los Angeles Rams would. The Rams and the Saints, they can run the football with power, and they have, what's the word for it? A diversified offense where you don't know where they're going, right, left, forward, or backwards. They got everything working, especially the Saints with Drew Brees at quarterback.
Huck in Missouri for Phil. Huck, take it away. What do you have now for me? Go ahead.
Well, before I get started, I want to wish you both a very Merry Christmas. And, Chris, another great year, Mad Dog Radio, man. This station means a lot to me, so I appreciate all you do as far as giving me good radio. Phil, we always hear, you want to be hot when you're going into the playoffs with a lot.
Bingo.
Which one of these teams to play their way in would be the biggest threat with momentum in the playoffs?
Well, Huck, are you a Kansas City fan?
I think we just lost them.
We did.
Momentum with a team that right now is not in a Tennessee, a Buffalo, an Atlanta,
I tell you,
Dallas.
Kansas City is going to be interesting. They changed some things on the defensive side. They played different. They played a different style. They got some new players in there. They're playing Reggie Ragland now. They put in Pierre Lewis, the linebacker, gave him a little more speed. Darrelle Revis, not that he's a big factor, but they've kind of straightened that out a little bit. So I was like, man, these last couple games, Chris, you go up and down during the year. The good teams, when they're going down, still win a lot of what you call ugly games. Well, Kansas City couldn't even win an ugly game. But now it's like they caught their breath. They got back on offense. Their offensive line, very aggressive the last 2 weeks, really playing well. And it's kind of changed them. So they're hot. And look, the Jacksonville Jaguars, I wonder, take this and think about it this way. They've had 3 great games in a row throwing the football from Blake Bortles. Now, I know it wasn't the greatest defenses out there in the NFL. Who was it? Indy, Seattle, then Houston. But they're throwing it more than you would think they would in those situations. Why? Why do you think they're doing that? Because they're getting ready for playoff football. Because this is just my thought, that they know when you get in playoff football, I don't care how good you are, you're going to have to throw the ball somewhere to win.
Yeah, because these teams are so good they can stop the run.
That's right.
These playoff teams. Yeah.
So that's what they got to do. So they're getting it ready, and I'll tell you, it's working well. I thought Blake Bortles played one of the best games I've seen him play physically, maybe in his career, especially this year. He made some terrific throws in tight spots, under pressure, threw it with power, threw it with touch. It's hard to believe it's the same guy I watched early in the year. So there's a couple teams. Those are just two. And, of course, the Rams. The Rams are dangerous in so many ways. They have weapons all over the place on offense. And who's the best special teams coach in the NFL, Chris
Jim
Russo?
Fossil.
John Fossil.
John Fossil.
Yes, son John.
Good.
They are incredible in special teams. It's every week. Who'd they beat last week? Seattle?
Seattle, running back punts the whole game. No question
my gosh.
about it.
And then there's Jared Goff. He didn't have to do anything. They really didn't do much on offense. It was special teams, defense. Todd Gurley on 3rd and 20 runs for a long touchdown. So, hey, they're tough. And Wade Phillips, the one thing he's going to do on defense, he's got this guy named Aaron Donald, and you're going to have to block him one-on-one most of the time because Wade Phillips is going to make sure you can't line up and double-team him. So it's great coaching.
Good job with Alan White Plains, who joins us. Alfred, you're with Phil. Go ahead, pal. What do you have for me?
Merry Christmas, fellas. Chris, just before you get to Phil, thank you for just an unbelievable spot with Billy Packer. That was an all-time classic. Phil, I've heard you talk about my Ravens. I think their defense is sound. I know they got shredded, but Roethlisberger and those guys can do it to anybody. They can rush the passer. I think their tackling is improved. The kid from Alabama has been terrific. I know Smith is a big loss. They have great special teams and maybe the best kicker I've ever seen in my life. What is the problem that you see it in the relationship between Flacco and his receivers and his almost steadfast refusal, even just to stretch a defense occasionally, of throwing the ball down the field with that great arm?
Well, listen, that is, Alfred, let me say this to you. First off, the Ravens are hot. I think they'll win their next 2. They're going to go to the playoffs, which is, hard to believe from the team that I watched for about 6 or 8 weeks going, oh my gosh, the franchise is in disarray. And it's, if I had to eat my words during the year, as it gets to this time, I'd weigh 350 pounds. Let's put it that way, because teams turn around, players do all these things, but the Ravens, Joe Flacco is not afraid to stretch the field. There's 2 things you got to have that you must do to stretch the field here. Is this Alfred? Alfred, is you got to have time and you got to have people that can get open. So that's a problem. And the biggest one is Joe Flacco. I watch their games. It's catch it, look 1 second, and throw the ball and get hit. It has gotten better of late. What I do like about them, they have 2 really good running backs. Danny Woodhead needs to get more involved in the offense to give them another option. The wide receiving core is okay, but it's not like NFL really good, that's for sure. And on the defense, you said it, Marlon Humphrey, the first-round pick from Alabama, the corners, playing well. They got Eric Weddle back there. He's tremendous. Then they got a quarterback and linebacker in C.J. Mosley. So, hey, the Ravens, if they're not the biggest team in the NFL, then they're the second biggest team. And they really can impose their will. And the offense is finally getting better. The running backs and, they got 2 coordinators, if you don't know, Chris. They have Greg Roman that does the run game, and Marty Warningwig calls the plays, but he's in charge of the pass. Kind of a strange relationship there, but it seems to be working well for him here of late.
Paul in Sacramento, last one for Phil. Paul, your turn. Go ahead, pal.
2 questions for Phil. We're about the same age. I was always curious.
I'm 72. How old are you?
There you go. Did you idolize, Namath or Bradshaw or Bart Starr? And the second question, or one of those guys, who was your idol as a quarterback? And then the second question, it looks like, the eyeball test, Phil, looks like the 49ers made a pretty clever trade. Garoppolo looks like he's been really well coached, and he looks like an NFL quarterback. That's what he looks like. He doesn't look like he's overwhelmed. He doesn't look nervous. He looks calm, and he looks like he's got his stuff together. I'm just curious your view on
two good ones. I've never heard that, Phil. Who did you idolize growing up as a kid?
Oh, I was a Bart Starr. I was a Roger Staubach, Terry Bradshaw guy. That's why I wore 12 in high school. I loved those guys. I wore 12 in college because of those guys. And what's really cool, I played against both of them, and it was great. My rookie year, I played against Roger Staubach. We are beating the Dallas Cowboys. They're down 2 scores. I can't believe it. It's going to be like our 5th victory in a row on a bad team. And, of course, it was just like TV. Down the field, Roger goes, touchdown. We get the ball back. We need 1 first down. I choke one off on 3rd down, miss it. They get it back down the field. They go and score. And he, Roger, the comeback king. And he comes across the field, Chris, shakes my hand. He goes, boy, you outplayed me today. And just typical him, great person. But, I really loved both of them growing up, tried to emulate them whenever I got a chance and things like that. And they're all-time greats.
Well, what year is that, Phil? Is that
1979?
Yeah, 16-14. Dallas beat you at the Meadowlands.
16. I think at one time we were up 14-6. So there was no 2-point conversion back then. So you looked it up. That was pretty good, Chris.
16-14, so there you go. All right, how about Garoppolo? I agree with Paul. He looks like a pretty good quarterback to me. What's your take on that for a second?
It's all good. It's an understatement to say that they got him for a steal and a second-round pick. Of course, he's been trained great by the New England coaches, Josh McDaniels. He's been around Tom Brady. He's doing everything right. I've watched every one of his throws this year, and each week I just go, wow. So they got him for a second-round pick. And my question to you is this, why did New England give up the best insurance policy on a team that hopes to go to the Super Bowl and win the Super Bowl? The best insurance policy there is in the NFL is him at backup quarterback. He'd have been number 1. Nick Foles would have been high on my list too. But why'd they give him up for a second-round draft pick?
Good question.
I worry about this year or this game. Let's worry about next year.
Yeah, totally. You needed him.
They did. And what did it do for the 49ers? It changes everything.
Well, they don't have to draft a quarterback. They got a quarterback. They're in good shape.
We got to get the right guy. He's got to have that special quality and all these. Oh my gosh! And here's my last point, which I think is Kyle Shanahan. Like him or don't, doesn't matter. He's down in Houston. Matt Schaub had career years. He goes to Washington. He creates an offense the NFL's never run for RG3, Rookie of the Year, I think he was. I'm not sure. He had a great year. They go to the playoffs. He had Johnny Manziel. Well, that didn't go as well. But then he has Matt Ryan. Matt Ryan's the MVP of the NFL in the second year. So what he's done out there, he's running his offense, but he's putting some of New England's offense in there with it. And they're doing both. And it's really working well. And Garoppolo, I'm going to tell you, I'm a little surprised how good he's looked. He has looked terrific.
He sure has, 281 yards last week. All right, Phil and I have a good job with the calls. Phil and I will go through some of these big games when we continue our last segment on our Friday before Christmas. Come on back. Don't go away.